They encountered somebody with a firearm who did not want to comply with the officer's commands to stop. Several officers gave chase, and one officer discharged his firearm towards the individual who had a firearm, struck that individual.
She says that person died.
A firearm was recovered near where he collapsed at the scene.
The chief wouldn't elaborate on whether the suspect fired on the officers or where the suspect was hit.
You shot straight, but you shot late. Hi, 11. This is the Rundown Podcast.
I'm gonna give you the rundown.
Say, man, hey, man, it's OG Jucario. Now I'm back at you with another one. And I'm always on the hunt for new information, right? New developments in the Rodney Hinton Jr. case. You know, the father who got retribution, revenge, as the state is saying, right? That's their case, their claim. That this father, ran over this deputy while he was in the line of duty as revenge for the cops killing his son the day before, right? Rodney Hinton. And they said that he had a gun in the actual original press conference that came out that the chief Thigi did there. In that snippet that I showed in the beginning of my video, Thigi, the chief, never said that the perpetrator, the suspect, Rodney Hinton, pointed a gun at the officer. She never clarified that, right? But Channel 12 said they asked specifically, did the suspect shoot at the officer or even at least aim at the officer? She said that the investigation was still going on. Now, with that being posed as a question, if it did happen, right, and she already talked to her officer that did the shooting, wouldn't the officer have told his chief, hey, well, chief, the reason I shot is because he pointed a gun at me, right? And they claim it was in a bladed position. All this crap comes after this original video that none of this stuff was said in. He went in a bladed position in the original footage that was, put out in this press conference, right? So it just seems as if, they were unclear at this point too. Then automatically, they're just so sure of their self when they come around with this second press conference. Now, keep in mind, they did like 3 or 4 press conferences on this whole matter, this Chief Thigi. And I just happened to find this one, right? And this happens to be the first information that they put out regarding the Rodney Hinton shooting, right? Officer-involved shooting.
Jim Ryder showed up to his home at the Westview condominiums to find a crime scene. Others like Afua Yaboa were home at the time.
I only heard a bang. I didn't know if it was a gunshot or what it was. I don't watch TV often, so it's pretty quiet in my unit.
She says she got a call from a neighbor to run outside.
I checked my Ring doorbell, I saw fire trucks, and then I saw people sprinting across the lot.
Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thigi says when officers arrived, 4 people took off running from this Kia SUV. The chief says at least one of them had a gun.
They encountered somebody with a firearm who did not want to comply with the officer's commands to stop. Several officers gave chase, and one officer discharged his firearm towards the individual who had a firearm, struck that individual.
She says that person died.
A firearm was recovered near where he collapsed at the scene.
The chief wouldn't elaborate on whether the suspect fired on the officers or where the suspect was hit. She says the homicide unit is investigating. The chief says several tactics were used, including canines and drones, to find and arrest 2 of the other suspects.
And this is what made his father, Hinton's father, Rodney Hinton Jr., snap. Now, according to reports, they're saying that after the father viewed that body cam footage of the shooting of the officer gunning down his son there, Rodney Hinton Jr. Came up to MLK Drive over there by that Ohio State graduation. And guess what? He seen Larry Henderson, the deputy, directing traffic there at that 4-way stop. And he gunned it, you guys. He hit the gas. And guess what? He ran smooth over Larry, killing the deputy. And this right here is all because many are speculating that maybe he didn't see his son Ryan Hinton, actually pointing a gun at the officer, giving the officer reason and right to kill his son. So this is, what many are speculating at this point, that maybe he didn't even point the gun at the officer and all this is fabricated, as we see in this first press conference. A gun being pointed at the officer was never reported, right? That didn't come until later that Ryan Hinton allegedly pointed this gun at this officer. As they asked, did he point the gun at him? Did he shoot the gun at him? So they come back in the second press conference and say, yes, he definitely did point a gun at the officer, but it was in a bladed position. He wasn't looking at the officer. He doesn't have to look at him to point the gun at him, and all this crazy psychotic, way of thinking that we're just supposed to, believe what, they tell us instead of what our eyes see on these steel frames and the actual video shooting of Ryan Hinton. You don't see Ryan Hinton even look at the officer to his left, okay? He has a straightforward vision trying to get away from the officers. This is the very first article of information that was put out right after the shooting occurred of Ryan Hinton losing his life to the Ohio officers there, right? And they say for the fourth time in 6 weeks, there was a fatal officer involved shooting in greater Cincinnati. This one occurred on Thursday at a condo complex in East Prince Hill. Officers responded to the Westview condominiums off of Warsaw Avenue about 9:30 a.m. When they arrived, they found the car and 4 suspects who all ran. They say they told them to stop, but they did not. One of them had a gun. Officers shot and killed him. Period. And this right here is cut and dry. As you see, this is straight fresh off the press. It says one of them, okay, let's back it up. They say officers told them to stop, but they did not. One of them had a gun. That's Ryan Hinton, as they allegedly said. Officers shot and killed him. Period. Wowzers. Yikes. What happened to, he pointed a gun at the officer. The officer felt threatened. Then he shot and killed him. I don't see that. But what it does say is this. A few hours later, Chief Teresa Thigi and the Cincinnati Police Department held a police press conference. Wow. So this is what they did right after. Huh? They had to get all their ducks in a row after they had already, put out the truth. Okay? Wasn't no gun being pointed in the original article that was told to the public. Okay? They had to come back with this press conference and, try to, finesse and come up with a reason, all right? And the alibi was that this young black boy pointed a gun. He had a gun, like they said in the original report. Him just having a gun is what it seems like they shot him for anyway. So what it looks and sounds like to me, according to this article, and this is the very first report of this incident there in Cincinnati, Ohio, okay? They didn't include Ryan Hinton, having a gun pointed at the officer, causing the officer to say that he was in fear of his life, okay, and had to gun down the young Ryan Hinton because he had a gun. And the officer, this is what he comes to say after the fact, because that would have been involved in the first report, I would believe, if that was the actual truth. Why isn't it a part of the first report? See, that's the question. And that's why I believe they don't want to release that actual report of Ryan Hinton or Rodney Hinton Jr., right? Those incident police reports are not going to come out. Not as of now, because with things like this being out here, there's no mention of a firearm being pointed by the suspect at the officer, you guys. And then they double back and they, ask about, well, did he even point the gun at the officer at least? Did he shoot the officer, right? Did he shoot at the officer? And they don't want to, say nothing about, if those things happened or not in this first article, okay? They say that they're still doing the investigation. Wow. So, I mean, it's just ludicrous, man. I mean, it's preposterous to believe that they know all of that I just ran down to you. But they don't know in this first article if, Ryan Hinton pointed the gun at the officer. I mean, why is that, an unknown factor at this time when y'all have all this other information that he even had a gun on him and, things of that nature. And the gun was found by the body and close to his body or whatever they said. Okay, y'all knew all that, but y'all didn't know that he pointed the gun at this point. It's just, you can't trust these people, man. I mean, I don't know, man. It sounds like they're kind of freestyling and making stuff up, man. I get into my, my unk mode, man. Get to looking up, man. I made that shit up. Yeah, it made that shit up, man. The chief said this. Listen to this, y'all. Officers encountered somebody with a firearm who did not want to comply with the officer's commands to stop. So the officers have to do what they have to do, said Thigi. The car in question is a Kia SUV. Now, did you hear that? She said they have to do what they have to do. She still didn't mention that one of the suspects who had the gun pointed the gun at the officer, causing the officer to have to defend his life and kill this suspect. She still didn't mention it. So it's like, this is, the actual real true story, y'all. It was never a gun pointed at the officer. That's only the alibi, right? For internal affairs and things of that nature. They have to have some type of, justification. That's the only thing that's going to save the officer in this case, is the qualified immunity and him saying that he just seen a barrel of a gun pointed at him, right? The suspect is, said they had a weapon on him. It's easy to, it's easy to put that together. It's easy to conjure up all that there and put it in a report, right? Ryan Hinton just made it easy if he had that gun on him, for them to lie on him. You see how that works? I mean, that's why you don't put yourself in that position. Now, a witness says she saw 3 men sleeping in the car. And they said it was 4 of them, so I guess she missed one of them. She didn't think much of it and went inside. Then 30 minutes later, she heard a bang. I wonder what the bang was. I only heard a bang, she said. I don't know if it was a gunshot or what. I don't watch TV often, so it's pretty quiet in my unit. I got a call from a neighbor who told me to run outside. Doorbell cam video from her home shows police and paramedics arriving within minutes. Police said that after shooting the 1 man, the other 3 got away. A firearm was recovered near where he collapsed at the scene, said Thigi. And they asked the chief this: do you know whether the officer was fired upon or at least aimed at, or was he shot in the back? Local 12 asked the chief. Now, she didn't have an answer for that. This is what she said. She said, so right now, the homicide unit is doing their investigation, the chief said. So, there was no definite answer, but it should have been if, you already, got briefed by your officer who did the shooting, who was involved, in the killing of Ryan. He should at least say, hey, well, yeah, he pointed a gun at me. That should have been involved in this first report. Why was it missing? So maybe this is why people are having a hard time getting that police report from this incident of Ryan Hinton being killed by those officers, right? And this right here is a big discrepancy to, their whole case, because the initial reporting wasn't that Ryan pointed a gun at this officer, and this officer is still not being named at this time. Now, I just want to hit on the fact that the chief made it loud and clear that when somebody, gets encountered by a police officer there, at least in her district or whatever, and this, person has a firearm and they do not want to comply with the officer's commands to stop, as if they're running away from the officer with this firearm, it says that, so the officers have to do what they have to do, says the chief. So that right there gives the clear impression that's just exactly what happened to Ryan Hinton. It didn't matter, she didn't say if they point a gun or not, because obviously that doesn't matter, the pointing the gun just gives them justification, like I said. And that's how they, get away with this qualified immunity thing and things of that nature, okay? But, this is clear and cut. She does not mention that the suspect was a threat to one of her officers at the time when one of her officers, right, does just like, obviously, she trains them. The officers have to do what they have to do if this person has a gun and they don't want to comply. So, according to Thigi, allegedly, the officers have the right to kill them, leading them to die. Now, I wonder, was that loud bang, the officers ramming the car, hitting the car? Because that one vehicle, that police cruiser, was very close to the bumper of that vehicle, that stolen vehicle that they claimed that these suspects and Ryan Hinton got out of and ran from. But what was the bang? It wasn't gunshots. According to this witness, she didn't say it didn't sound like a gunshot. So what was that bang? She says that they were sleeping in that vehicle. She didn't think nothing of it. Then 30 minutes later, here comes the cops. You hear a bang. Did the cops startle these boys with some kind of, explosive device and startle them and woke them up and scared them? And this is why they possibly ran? Who knows? Kind of sounds like it, because what was the bang, you guys? But nevertheless, I digress. And I just wanted to know y'all thoughts on this whole ordeal, okay? Because this article, this first press conference, never mentioned that Rodney Hinton Jr.'s son, okay? This is the black man who they're saying got revenge for his son Ryan Hinton's death, who lost his life at the hands of that Cincinnati, Ohio police officer who claims he pointed a gun at him. But we still can't see the gun in the blurry video footage, the body cam. What's going on? Still can't see the gun pointing at the officer and the steel frames. But how, if we can't see it, how can they see it? Oh, you just going off what the officer said. Just let it be known. Just make that a clear-cut case that, well, the body cam footage is blurry. We're going to only go off what the officer said and what the officer seen. Right? That's what, matters at the end of the day from what I've learned. Okay? So, y'all let me know what y'all think about this entire situation. And until the next time, this is OG Jucario TV with the latest in rap, hip-hop celebrity, and urban news. You're watching the Rundown Podcast. I appreciate everybody for spending with me. I appreciate all my subscribers for sliding with your boy every time. And say, man, hey, man, keep hitting that like button, keep hitting that subscribe button, and look, turn on post notification so we can slide whenever I get the drop. You already know what it is, man. It's deep in the Buddha, her, you hear me? And guess what? I'm gone.